Is it really possible to smoke a picanha like a brisket? On today's episode, we'll find out. Obviously, for a brisket style picanha, we had to get a good picanha today. We picked this one up from Borai Craft in Corpus Christi, Texas. You can see there's some really nice marbling all over top. And if you look at the marbling throughout this picanha, I know that this is going to be a really good bite. I would say one of the things that's extremely important when we're doing this experiment today is getting something that is well marbled. This is a prime grade. If you guys want to go Wagyu, that's completely fine. But I would definitely make sure that there's enough marbling in this because we are cooking this completely different than we ever have. Now, another thing that I'm taking note of right away is the way that the grain is running on this picanha. We are going to want to make sure that we are doing our slices against the grain. So I notice that it's running this way. If you guys want to, you can make a little incision somewhere to make sure that you know that you're cutting against the grain in the end. We're not going to do that today. We're just going to look at the grain towards the end of this cook. But you definitely want to make sure, if you feel like you're going to forget where the grain is in the end, or you feel like you're not going to be able to see it, make a little incision. I've done it on turkey breast before to show you guys. It really does make everything a lot easier. And even in the end, even with your incision, the slices are still going to look really good. For seasonings today, I'm going to start with Killer Hog's TX brisket rub. We are cooking this brisket style, so I want to stay true to those flavors. This is going to bring a really good bark. It has plenty of salt, pepper, garlic, and other flavors that just go great on Texas style brisket. We're going to start on the backside today. You can see I have a really good fat cap. They did a great job over at Borai. I don't need to do any trimming here. It's a little bit bald here, but that's completely okay. We're going to be fine. I'm going to start with a good layer of the TX rub on the backside. I also want to make sure that I'm getting the sides and the edges. And then we're going to go over top of the Killer Hogs TX with the light layer of our trifecta. It doesn't need to be anything crazy. I just want to add a little bit of that trifecta flavor all over the top of this picanha. Same thing with the trifecta, just make sure you're getting every single side. We're just going to flip the picanha over, and then we're going to do the same exact thing to the top side. A good nice layer of TX, and then a light layer of our trifecta. We're just going to let these seasonings sit on the picanha for around 10 to 15 minutes while we get our gateway drum up to temp and ready to go. We're outside at the gateway drum today, and we got this running right at 300 degrees. One of the things I want to do before we get this picanha on is add water to my water pan. So I prefer to use a water pan just so I can use 2 zones on this gateway. If that doesn't make sense to you, what I can do is start my picanha over this water pan, and then I can rotate it over the spot where there is no water pan, meaning that I can keep it here, spin the grate, then it'll be over the fire. The fat will drip onto those coals. It'll create a steam-like effect, and it'll add a really, really good flavor to this picanha. Also, this allows you to cook any protein on this and not really get into trouble. If you were cooking pork or chicken, there's going to be a lot of grease dripping on that fire, and it really can cause these drums to get out of control and the temps to climb sporadically. But if you spin the grate and get your chicken, pork, beef, whatever over that water pan, that grease is not going to be hitting the fire. Everything's going to calm down, and it'll help you regulate your temps. You can also mess with the intakes as you need to, but I have learned over time of using these drums that if you don't watch out, they can get out of control. They're great cookers. I love having them. I love this one and my Quattro D, but you always want to make sure that you're going to have a really good cook. It's been right at 15 minutes on our picanha. Now we're going to go ahead and get it onto the gateway drum, and we're just going to close everything right up. Just for everybody curious, I did not use a chunk of any type of wood today, and the truth is just because I don't have any. But if I was to add some, I would add post oak and pecan to add a little bit of extra smoke flavor to this picanha. I will tell you though, because we are using this drum smoker, naturally you're gonna get a lot of smoke on this picanha. It's gonna have plenty of flavor in the end, and it won't be lacking anything. If you guys are using a pellet grill, a Weber kettle, or even an offset smoker, just add whatever wood flavor you would like to get your desired picanha. It's been right at 30 minutes on our picanha. What I like to do every 30 minutes, I did this with my brisket points, is rotate this and just make sure that we're keeping that fat cap nice and intact. We don't want anything to burn, so I want to make sure that I'm rotating this every 30 minutes. Kind of like I was talking about earlier. Right now, the picanha is directly over those coals. If we spin it, It's protected over this water pan. All of the fat is going to drip into that water pan, and it's not going to cause any flare-ups on those coals down there. You guys can see there's plenty of moisture on this picanha. We're still going to hit it with some of this Wagyu beef tallow. I've never used this before, but it's just something that I wanted to try out. Actually smells super beefy. Again, this is the first time I'm ever using it. Let's go ahead and throw this cover back on. Now my plan is to rotate this consistently every 30 to 45 minutes, and it's just because I do want to protect that fat cap. I want that to be part of the overall bite in the end with this picanha. In another hour or so, we are going to throw a probe in there so we can start checking for that internal temp. Don't forget, that's always a guideline, but it's also going to help us know when it's time to wrap and when this is really close to being done. It's right at 2 hours on this picanha. We want to open up this drum and take a look at this picanha. The only thing we've been doing is rotating every 30 to 45 minutes. I haven't spritzed it again since that first time you guys saw me. There's plenty of moisture in this drum. I want to see if it's time to wrap or how close we're getting to that point. Now, upon first look, I can tell you that this looks really, really good. Nice bark is forming, kind of like I mentioned just a second ago. There's plenty of moisture. You can see that this isn't dry on top of this picanha. What I do want to do is I want to get an internal reading. We're right around 167 degrees, which that doesn't necessarily mean that it's time for me to wrap or anything, but it's going to be soon. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this picanha. I'm going to flip this over. You can see the fat bubbling right here on the back side, and that's a really, really good sign in my opinion. I'm going to let this roll fat side up for around 30 minutes now. We'll come back and we'll see where we're at with this picanha. We're going to be wrapping this in butcher paper today, so I do want to make sure that my fat is nice and rendered before we do anything. It's been right at 30 minutes with our picanha fat side up. I can see this fat is nice and bubbling. I know everything is really looking good and it's feeling rendered. When I touch that fat, you can see how squishy it is in the camera, and that's a really good sign that the fat is nice and rendered. So just for everybody at home, we'll take a quick temp. We're still right around that 170 mark, 168 currently. We're gonna take this off and let's get this into some butcher paper. I've got my picanha on my butcher paper now. I'm just going to hit this and around with a little bit of beef tallow. It's gonna make this a little bit easier to wrap around this picanha, and I do want there to be a little bit of moisture on this paper. Just gonna go over and just try and make a really, really nice, neat fold around and wrap it kind of however it wants to go. Now that I have everything wrapped up, I'm also going to go in with a ThermalWorks RFX so we can monitor temps in the deepest part of this picanha. Now we're going to go back onto the Gateway drum smoker until this reaches around 205 degrees internal. At that point, it doesn't necessarily mean that the picanha is done, but we want to start checking for probe tenderness. 205 is a really, really good guideline, but do not forget it has to feel right, and we will get to that in just a little bit. After a total of 4 hours, my ThermalWorks RFX is telling me that it's 206 degrees internal on my picanha. Like I told you guys earlier, temperature is a great guideline, but I do want to make sure with my ThermaPen that it feels nice and probe tender. So once we go in here and if we do feel that probe tenderness, we're going to get it off and we need to let this rest. But let's check first, make sure it feels probe tender before we make any decisions moving forward. RFX is right here. I'm going to go in, yep. And that feels really nice and soft. Now what I'm gonna do with this picanha is take it inside it to my oven and put it in with zero heat on. It's a little bit insulated, kind of like a Canberra or a cooler, but I don't feel like going into the garage to get it. It's cold enough out here as it is, so I'm ready to get inside. This will stay in the oven for the next hour before we slice it. It's been 1 full hour since we put our picanha in the oven with no heat on. We just wanted to rest this, let everything calm down, and just stop cooking so we could get to slicing. So I'm gonna pull out my thermometer here. We're gonna unwrap our picanha. This is completely drenched. And you can see exactly what we're working with here. From the bottom of this picanha, if you guys look really, really closely, that fat is extremely squishy. That means that we rendered it very, very well. And I think that it's gonna be part of the bite of this picanha. It's gonna add for a really velvety and buttery flavor here. And I'm just really excited to try this. Now this is the first time that we've ever done this, but let's go ahead and slice into this and see how we did. Just for everybody at home, we're gonna go straight down the middle and give you a cross section. Go ahead and reveal. It feels like a brisket slice. I don't know, what does it look like? Does it look like a brisket slice? To me, this feels like a brisket slice. Oh, lots of moisture. Holy smokes. I'm talking to Sabrina at the same exact time. Sorry, this is a little bit different than normal, but this is a really, really awesome reveal here. You can see that smoke ring really, really subtle on top. You see the fat cap that's nice and rendered there. This just looks so incredibly juicy as well. Plenty of marbling was running through this. Man, I would say that so far, this seems like a major success, but I've got to keep slicing so we can try it. So far, the best thing that's come out of this brisket style picanha is just how much this does look like a brisket. You can see there's plenty of moisture throughout this. That fat is nice and rendered, extremely soft. I know it feels like I'm beating a dead horse, but that is just so important when it comes to making something like this. You have to render this fat because you want it to be part of the experience. Like I said, I know I say this a lot, but I truly think it's that important. I know I'm moving around a little bit more than normal, but I am so excited to try this. Before I cut the rest of this, we have to go in for a bite. Just like a slice of brisket, this holds up under its own weight. Let's see if we could pull it apart. Oh my gosh, it is so tender. It is so tender. Pulls apart with ease. Like I said, you can see that fat right here. Just in the slice, within the slice, I can see that there's plenty of moisture as well. Of course, let's go in and let's take a bite. I hope you can see that in the camera. I promise you, I can just put my lips on this thing and it's gonna start to fall apart. Cooked beyond perfectly. The flavor is there. It still definitely tastes like picanha, but the difference is it's gonna be the texture. So typically people are cutting this into steaks or they're cooking this to like a medium rare. You're getting a completely different texture. It's gonna be very, very similar to a steak. This is much more similar to a brisket. It has almost like, I don't know what the flavor I'm looking to explain is here. It's almost a cross between a brisket point and a brisket flat. You get plenty of fattiness in there, but it does have the texture of like a lean slice. It's just truly incredible. They do say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I truly believe that we just did something special by cooking this picanha exactly like a brisket. Guga might not like it because I think he likes to cook some medium rare picanhas. But this is just truly so good. I highly recommend it. If you're going to get a picanha, make sure that it has plenty of marbling because you are cooking this a lot different than you would a standard picanha. Man, I am so happy with the results on this. I've got to let you go so I can continue eating. As always, we really appreciate you guys tuning into this video. Who would have known that this was going to work? Thanks, and we'll see you on the next one. Look, watch. So tender. Just like a piece of brisket.